Man, we're back, baby. Wow. Can we just take a moment? We're in the studio.
Yes.
We're in the studio. It's been some time since we've been in the studio. Man, I'm overcome with so much awe right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Good Service Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Dunham. For those of you who continue to join us, are part of our community, our audience, thank you for coming back. For those of you who are there for the first time, welcome. Yes, welcome. We're so glad you're here. A little bit about us: we are your source for good news, wholesome stories, inspiring stories, positive stories around what nonprofit organizations, service-based organization leaders are doing within their community to make it a better place than what they found. And uh, we're going to dive into that in a much more intimate conversation and an interview, if you will, over the next 45 minutes, an hour, however long this beautiful moment lasts. But thank you for joining us today. We're so grateful to have you here. Don't forget, like, subscribe, listen, share, repost. We're live. The website's up, the YouTube's up. Of course, we're on Spotify, Apple, all the places. But enough about us. Enough about me, Joe D, your host. We're here to talk about this incredible man to my left. Oh. So you all know how this goes. I'm gonna give a very, very quick intro, um, and then we're gonna dive into it. But ladies and gentlemen, the man to my left, his name is Richard Shaw Jr. Richard Shaw Jr. is an Atlanta native, born and
Yes.
raised. He is a saxophonist, celebrity saxophonist, has been for the last 25 years. He plays not just one saxophone, two, but three simultaneously.
Yes.
Very crazy. I can't wait to pick your brain about that because I've seen some videos and things. I'm like, man, this is immaculate. But he's done shows across the world. A lot of just prestigious individuals within the room. Steve Harvey with Jennifer Hudson as well, and many more to dive into. But not only is he a celebrity saxophonist and shares his God-given gift of music and being a saxophonist with the world, he is the founder, alongside his wife, who's not here with us in this moment, but you'll meet Crystal one day, I'm sure of it. The Believe Again nonprofit foundation, Believe Again Global Foundation. And so I'm excited to learn more about that and to share that with the world. But ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Richard Shaw Jr. The crowd goes wild. The crowd goes wild. My brother, good morning.
Great morning. Great morning. Thank you for having me on the Good Service Podcast.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for saying yes.
Absolutely.
Wow. It's just, we've had some conversations on the phone. It's so real. It's
Yes.
so real, and this is definitely by the grace of God that we're here in this moment together. So, thank you for saying yes,
Absolutely.
and for willing to share your story as an individual. It's such a powerful story and testimony, and I know for certain it inspired me when I first found out through Sterling, and then we had
Yes.
our conversation and the research I got to do on you. I'm like, man, I'm ready to run through a wall for my brother, and so
Appreciate it.
and really highlight your gifts in the Believe Again Global Foundation. So, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Shaw Jr., uh, let's dive in. I always like to share how I met our guest, right? So, I'm not sure how Sterling, if he got you up to date or what that looks like, but this all starts probably about a month ago. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all who are listening and watching, your referrals. I know this organization. I know this person. This is how this works. We're a global foundation and an organization, so we're not going to touch all corners of the world without your help. But this story starts with Alfonso Cross. He is the one of the managers at Indaco, which is an Italian restaurant here off of Pont City market area. And so I met Alfonso a year ago, just stepped in for dinner. It had just opened, I want to say, I think a year ago to around October time. I went in December. We had a great conversation. He had a Nelson Mandela pennant on his jacket. I'm like, that's one of my guys. And so we had a great conversation. Fast forward, Alfonso's like, hey, I'm curating this event for just like-minded folks that are looking to make change. A little curated networking event. He's, I'd like for you to be there. I pull up. It's a Sunday afternoon or early evening, which is tough for me because it's football season. Sundays reserved for church and football. That's it. So got my church in, pull up, and Alfonso's like, I want you to meet somebody. And so, boom, Sterling Morris. Nice little blazer on. My man was fitted. Um, Instantly, just the energy's off the charts. Right, we're having a great conversation, and that went the rest of the night. I got to learn more about who Sterling was and his initiatives and background, and um, just the man he is and the legacy he's going to leave behind, and the lives he wants to impact. And he was just talking about Richard Shaw Jr. Richard Shaw Jr. He's like, you got to meet him. You got to meet him. And I'm like, well, I'd love to, right? Like the Good Service Podcast would love to have a conversation, sit down with you, permitting, where there's alignment in things. And it wasn't even a week later, right? Sterling and I meet for a more intimate conversation, and then boom, we're on the phone. We're on the Zoom call, right? And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's how I got to meet Richard Shaw Jr. and introduce him to the Good Service Podcast in our community here. So thank you, Alfonso. Thank you, Sterling. I know you're in the studio. I know you're going to watch this. I know you're going to share this, all the things. You've already done enough, brother. Again, I can't from the bottom of my heart. And again, it's been divine by God. So just want to say thank you. And yeah, that's where we're at. And that's what we got here today. So let me tell you all very quickly just around the Believe Again Foundation or Believe Again Global nonprofit. So your all's mission at Believe Again, the initiative was inspired by your personal experiences with depression, suicidal thoughts, and you overcame that through faith. Richard's album, Believe Again, serves both as a musical and motivational tool, urging people to renew their belief in themselves and in God, which I believe is so, so good. And through your nonprofit, Believe Again, you all support mental health initiatives, often sharing your own personal story of survival and resilience, of not just overcoming suicide, but also what you experienced with the EF3 tornado that you and your family experienced. So you all know, and we'll dive into this more. Suicide is near and dear to my heart. Mental health as well. We just had Tiffany Alicia Cuthbert on the show, and he grew up with her. Talk like how crazy. Yeah, hey Tiffany, how crazy, right? So, again, got to give you your flowers. Want to give you your flowers. Excited to give you your flowers, and yeah, where does I've done my research, Richard, but where does what's the origin story? Where does everything start? How do we get here today to the Richard Shaw Jr. experience and Believe Again Global?
Absolutely. So it literally started, of course, in my mother's womb. And I remember when I got to a certain age, she would share with me, son, when I listened to music, every time I would listen to music, you would jump. And she felt like, and I felt in hindsight, that was a cue and a hint to what I would do later on in life, not knowing that every time she listened to music, I would jump. So I was excited about something. It was the music, but looking at that and where I am today, my mom and my father has been very instrumental in my growth and development. I remember at the age of 10, that's when I really started to develop an interest in the saxophone, particularly because I was at a Boy Scout troop camp and we were all in the tents. We were actually getting ready to prepare for bed, but we hadn't got there yet.
Yeah.
So our scout leader, he had on the radio and he was playing some smooth jazz. And next thing I know, I heard this sound. Joseph, I still remember the sound to this day. And it was this saxophone player called Kenny G. I didn't know it. I asked my scout leader, I said, who is this? He said, this is Kenny G. I said, whatever he's playing, that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the beginning, right? And then fast forward maybe about a year later, I had a chance to listen to a gentleman. His name was Richard. He played the saxophone in my elementary. We had this big program for school, and he played the sax, and I was paying attention, Joseph, to everybody in the room. And I saw how everybody in the room was actually touched. And I was like, how in the world is he able to communicate on that sax and touch people? That's when I quickly found out that music has the ability to move people
Hmm.
without physically touching them. That transformed my life. I said, this confirms that's what I want to do. But my parents didn't have the money for a sax
Right.
until 3 years later. So I was in this place of limbo. I was like, I want to play the sax. I told my band teacher, he said, well, you can't play the sax. You have to start off on a recorder. I said, I don't want a recorder.
Yeah, no.
He said, you have to do that first. So my mom bought me a recorder because it was only like $10. She could afford that.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, I'm ready for sax after about 3 months. He said, no, you have to play the clarinet. I said, I want the sax.
Yeah.
Why you keep giving me all these other instruments? That's not what I requested. He said, learn the recorder, graduate to the clarinet, then you can move to the sax. So I'm frustrated. Finally, after about 2 years, I received my saxophone for my birthday. It was the best birthday gift of my
Man,
life. My mom and dad presented it to me, and from there, the rest is history.
little did they know the greatest gift, investment,
Greatest.
blessing, right?
Literally. Yes. Yes.
Man, that's so beautiful.
Yes.
At such a young age, to that lesson of patience,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you feel like when you think back to your own journey of becoming the saxophonist you are today, that if you were to tell someone that a younger Richard or someone watching would be like, hey,
Absolutely.
do I need to play a recorder? Do I need to play the clarinet? Did that help you, or is that necessary? Like, I know for your story, absolutely,
Yeah.
right? But
You know, Joseph, in hindsight, I feel like it was necessary to a degree because it helped with breath control. And when I transitioned to the sax, it was very difficult for me to blow through the sax. Even though I still had, the recorder experience, I still
Mhm.
had the clarinet experience. It was still a little tough for me to blow. But I feel like if I didn't have the experience with the recorder and clarinet, it would have been even more hard for me to blow.
Yeah,
So, looking back at it, I understand now why my music teacher said start off on these.
yeah,
Um, do you have to start off on those just to play the sax? No, but I believe it did help.
all part of the testimony,
Yeah,
all part of the story.
yeah,
Man, it all happens for a reason.
exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, there's a quote, right? It talks about life can only be understood backwards,
Mm,
but has to be lived forward,
wow, I love that.
right? So,
Love that.
like, having the knowledge and wisdom you do today, like, it makes sense.
Yes.
But you kept pressing on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, shout out to mom and dad for believing.
Oh yeah.
For first off,
Absolutely.
working hard. I mean,
Yes.
a sax. I don't know how much it costs. It's gotta be a lot,
Yeah.
right? So expect not just back then, even still today. So thank you, mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs.
Absolutely.
Shaw,
Yes.
wherever you are, wherever you see this,
Absolutely.
because that's a beautiful thing in itself. Tell us a little bit more about. Okay, I read in the Indie Post you did an interview with them, um, and you talked about in middle school being bullied,
Hmm.
for wanting to play the saxophone.
Yes.
Right. How? What was that like to have this dream? You see Richard come in and touch the lives he did. You have a vision yourself of that being you.
Yeah.
Um, you go through, the gauntlet of recorder, clarinet. Now you have the sax. Now you're being bullied.
Yeah.
What did that do for you in order to double down and see through to where you're at today?
Yeah. Honestly, that was one of the moments in my life that I call it a double-edged sword. And the reason why I say that is because in one aspect, it propelled me
Mm-hmm.
to grow, to go to the next level. But on the other hand, it had a negative effect from the standpoint of here it is, I have this dream, I just started. Of course, I'm no good, but I don't need my peers to give me a stamp of approval if I'm no good.
Right.
Like, I already know I'm not good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need you to tell me, especially embarrassing me. It,
Right.
it was one of those things where the band leader, he would call out some songs, and the way it was set up, it was like we had about 14 saxophone players in our band.
In middle school.
Well, this was actually in high school, but it
Okay.
was considered middle school because it was my 8th grade year.
Okay.
So our
Gotcha.
high school started from 8th to 12th.
Okay.
So technically, I was in middle school, but it was high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here it is. I'm sitting in this room with sophomores, juniors, seniors. Of course, they're better than me. So he would go down the line and say, "All right, play this song." And I remember this one day, I screwed the song up so bad. If I could carve out a part in the earth to go in, I would have. Like literally, because I screwed it up so bad. But what made it worse was that the students around me was like, "Oh my God, you're terrible. You need to stop playing." And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could you give me some type of grace? I just got started, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I realized later on it was just immature, you know. That was the thing that students did, bullying and, saying mean things. So I came home one day and I actually told my mom. My dad was at work. I told my mom, Joseph, I said, you know what? This thing, the sax, maybe it's not for me. Like, yeah, I'm not getting good. I'm not having any progress. So my mom gave me this look, Joseph. I'll never forget it. She said, "Boy, if you don't pick that horn up and play that horn, as much money
Yep.
as I paid for that horn, you go blow that horn." I said,
Yes, ma'am.
all right, yes,
Yep.
ma'am.
You know what?
So
First and
what I
last
did,
conversation about that.
exactly, I used that motivation from my mom, all right? And I used the ridicule from the students to say, you know what? I'm going to practice every day. I'm not going to miss a day. From this day forward, I'm going to practice every day for at least 2 hours. And I'm going to see what results do I get.
Yeah.
Joseph, no lie. I came back the next summer. I moved from last chair to second chair. Now, the only reason I didn't move into first chair is because they have a protocol in band. If you have a section leader, you cannot pass them no matter how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
I moved from last chair to second chair.
How about that?
Everybody in the band was
How
like,
about that?
"What in the world? What did you do? What, like, Richard, how did you get good?" Like, and I wasn't even that good. I was just good enough to get into second chair.
Yeah. I mean, my man went into the lab, the hyperbolic chamber, if you will. He went
Yes.
to work,
Yes.
isolation, 2 hours a day.
Yeah, I was serious.
As a 14-year-old, that's 13, 14-year-old, that's dedication.
Yeah.
That's everything you need to be to get you to where you're at and look at where you're at today.
Yeah.
No, this isn't a stop bullying campaign, but I'm always going to say don't bully.
Exactly.
Whether it's online, in person, be kind.
Exactly.
Be kind.
Yeah.
But luckily you were able to use that as fuel
Mm-hmm.
to help you get to where you and you saw you get your validation from your family.
Yes.
So that's a beautiful thing. I can relate. I get my God and family. The rest of this
Yes.
world can.
Absolutely.
So I know we see eye to eye there. Um, we shared earlier in your introduction, Believe Again Global
Mm-hmm.
and how that came about. Um, you know, your story. I would love for you to share with the folks that don't know who you are. Um, your testimony comes from suicide.
Yes.
And of course another storm that we'll dive into.
Hmm.
Um, but would love for you to open up around how you got to that place
Hmm.
and what that was like then, and how that's impacted who Believe Again Global is and yourself as Richard Shaw Jr.
Absolutely. Well, the whole Believe Again, global is so near and dear to my heart. It's really the lifeline of what I do. Most people know me as celebrity saxophonist. That's what they know me as. However, I have just as much of a passion for the sax as I do for the Believe Again Global. Probably more.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because the Believe Again Global gives us an opportunity, us as in my wife and I, and people like Sterling, who has come on board to help navigate and to bring growth to the company. It allows us to be a beacon of light and to be true service or provide true service. You know, I read in a book a while ago, Joseph, it said, service to many leads to greatness. And then I
Ooh.
heard Zig Ziglar, he said this. It was very profound. He said, if you help enough people get what they want in life, you will have everything you want in life. What is that about? It's about service.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that was just so profound. But going back to the story of Believe Again, how I ended up in a place of depression, suicidal thoughts, it was constant hammering of negativity of life. I mean, for at least, I would say at least 2 years leading up to this, it was a negative event after a negative event.
Mm-hmm.
Like just, and I was like, you know how you're on this track, okay? You're on this train track, and you're trying to get to a certain destination, and then the train track unravels, and now you got to sit there and wait until somebody fix that. It's like that was happening consistently,
Mm-hmm.
regularly, and it was just like, am I going to get to this destination?
Yeah.
So it was four things. Um, Primarily, it was more than this, but for the sake of time, I'll list four things that caused me to say, you know what, I can't do this thing called life. Number one, I was constantly comparing myself to other people. I would look at artists, Joseph, and I'm like, what? I'm just as good as they are.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe better. I don't know. But why is Richard Shaw Jr. not in the limelight? And I'm just as good.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? I've I've did what Malcolm said in his book. Um, you need to have 10,000 hours of practice
Yeah.
in something in order to achieve perfection or professionalism,
Mastery.
mastery.
Yeah.
I've achieved that. Why am I not on TV? So comparing myself, I realized that that wasn't getting me anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So God revealed to me, he said, Richard, stop comparing yourself to other people. He said, your chapter 5 is not their chapter 5.
Oh,
Everybody has
that's
their
big.
own story.
That's so
Don't
big.
judge what you're doing. And social media is one of the biggest. I tell people it's another double-edged sword, okay? Because most times on social media, you're looking at, okay, everybody's perfection, but you don't see the dark side most
Yep.
times. So God said, listen, do not compare yourself to other people, but learn from other people. That helped change my perspective.
That's a bar. Jot that one down. Don't compare yourself. Learn.
Exactly.
Use it.
Use it. That's it, Joseph. So that was number one. And when I started thinking about that, I said, okay, God, I get that. And then he said something deeper. He said, Richard, I don't want your gift to take you places your character can't keep you.
Oh.
He said, that's the reason why you're still where you are right now.
Will you say that again, please?
He said, I don't want your gift to take you places your character can't keep you. He said, it's a lot of people.
Oh man, that's so.
It's a lot of people who are having so-called success. But at some point, their character destroys all the success. He said, I don't want you to fall in that category. I got to continue to get you ready. I said, okay, I get that, God, but I still see people having success and I'm ready for it. So that was number one. I was bitter with God. Number two, I was in a bad relationship. Bad relationship. And I tell people, be careful what ship you on, because that ship can sink you. So I was in a bad relationship. It was horrible. And
So now y'all getting dating advice. You heard that? I know you heard that.
I mean, it was to the point where it was just absolutely toxic. And I knew it was toxic, but I was so head over heels for her. I just loved this. Woo! I mean, I loved her. And God just kept speaking to me. He said, Richard, you can't continue in this path.
Right.
But I was like, God, but I want this.
Mm.
So here it is. My heart and my mind is battling because my heart wanted it, but my mind knew I shouldn't have it. And my mind was like, no. It was God, the Spirit of God, letting me know this is not for you. Here's the third thing, Joseph. I was not living life of purpose. And whenever you don't know your purpose, you live in frustration.
Right.
Because anything becomes acceptable. I literally had over 30 jobs because I didn't know my purpose. I was just taking anything for money.
Yeah.
Like if I list every job that I had, you'd be like, really? Like I picked up dead bodies. That was it was legal, of course.
No, yeah.
It was
You
legal,
were literally getting to the bag.
Yeah.
It's a different bag. But
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was just taking anything because I didn't really know my purpose, and it breeded frustration in my life. And I tell people all the time, find your purpose. One of the strategies that I've read in books, I've experienced on my own, is that a lot of times your purpose is what you hate or what you love. A lawyer hates no justice.
Yeah.
So they become a lawyer to fight it. A doctor hates bad health. So they become a doctor to fight it. You get what I'm saying?
A saxophonist. What does a saxophonist hate?
See.
'Cause I have an idea what you love.
So this is, to be honest, I would listen to certain tones and I would listen to certain music and I would say, I don't like the way that sound. So let me give you an example. I'm training my daughter and my son to play the sax now. I think my daughter is gonna hold. I don't know about my son yet because he's still, he's 9.
Yeah.
But my daughter has really taken a like sax. And one of the things that I always share with her is the most important thing on the sax is your tone. If you don't have your tone together, I hate a bad tone on a sax. So I spend so much time on really developing a great tone so that when I'm performing, people who don't even like the sax, they say, it's something about your sound that I love. I can't tell you how many times I had people who do not like jazz. They don't. But when they came to our show, they fell in love with it.
That experience.
It's the anointing and it's the tone. It's the experience.
Ooh. I did mean to take you off track of your story of what led you to that dark place, but I appreciate you sharing
Absolutely.
what you hated about the sax that made you fall,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to name one more thing that I hate in the industry. When you get to a certain point, certain people feel entitled because they're just that good.
Yeah.
I can't stand a person who's arrogant. I hate it with a passion. So I've always, from day one, when I started to grow and become better, I've always made a vow to God that I will always stay humble, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how much success I have, no matter how good I am, no matter how different I am. I will never become arrogant.
Right.
I will be confident. And sometimes people say, well, what's the difference between confidence and arrogance? Simple. Confidence attract people. Arrogance repel people.
Mm-hmm. Like take that one to the bank. Another
That's it.
Richard Shaw another Richard Shaw bar. Just full of them.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's a very clean cut to the point of arrogance versus confidence.
absolutely.
And I'm gonna subscribe to that.
Absolutely. You can have it. So the fourth thing that caused me to fall into this depression was I was broke. I was broke. And if anybody know anything about a man, when a man is broke financially, you destroy the very essence of who he is because as a man, you're an innate provider.
Have to be. It's how we're wired.
Yeah, that's how we're wired. So here it is, I'm broke. Like I'm talking about I'm broke. Like I don't have money. I'm negative. I'm frustrated, man. I'm a grown man and you haven't figured out how to earn a living? I said, the buck stops here. God, I'm done with this thing called life. I'll never forget. I came home. I had a bottle of pills. I swallowed 20,000 milligram of pills. I
Mm.
said, I'm done. I want to die a slow life. I didn't want a gun because I didn't want it to be that bro. I just wanted to die slowly. So I swallowed 20,000 milligrams of pills. I passed out. I woke up in the hospital. And I remember a doctor hovering over me. And he was like, son, why would you do that to yourself? And I said, well, my goal was to destroy my life because I felt like it wasn't worth living. If I have all these negative things happening to me simultaneously, why should I live? At this point, I'm just existing. I'm not living.
Right.
And he says, son, it's not worth it. In the back, I could see my mom and my dad, my sisters, like just crying and just like, I can't believe my son did this. And on that hospital bed, I made a vow to God, Joseph. I said, God, if you bring me out of this, if you save me, bring me out of this, God, I promise I will never attempt suicide again. I will never do this because that's not worth it.
Yeah, man.
It's not worth it. And Joseph, I can say to this day that God has honored and I have honored that because I have never had another thought of suicide and I've never attempted it again. From there, it was a moment to where I knew that, wait a minute, I'm not the only one that deals with this.
Right.
There's others. And that began to become a movement silently in me that grew. And I'll tell you, and fast forward to the story of Believe Again, how that came about. But that was the beginning of the Believe Again, because I know there's other people who have similar feelings and feel like life is not worth living because of everything that goes on. I heard somebody say in the interview, life be life, and it's true. But with God, all things are possible. We just got to believe. He said, all things are possible to those that believe.
Talk about it. Ha, man. It's thank you for sharing. The
Absolutely.
strength to share, to be so vulnerable. Um, suicide is a very dark cloud,
Yes.
not just across this nation and globally. I imagine, most definitely within the black community, especially for black males. I have some
Absolutely.
statistics I'll pull up in a little bit in the research I've done, but just your story, it resonates with me.
Wow.
With my own family,
Wow.
two brothers that have failed attempts. Thankfully,
Mm.
I lost a cousin to suicide 5 years ago. So, um, just to get to that point where you say, "I'm done. My chips are all in."
Yeah.
I had a good run. Tiffany and I, we talked about it.
Yeah.
She shared her bout, right? And it's just, you're not alone.
Mm.
You're not alone, and um, I know that's what Believe Again Global. Your mission is to change the narrative and to be a resource and a beacon for people
Absolutely.
to believe again. So, thank you for sharing that with the world with me today.
Absolutely.
Uh, and yeah, we're so glad you're here. The world is a better place because you're here,
Thank you.
right? And honoring that conversation you had with God on that hospital bed.
Yes.
You know very well his word doesn't return void.
That's right.
So
That's right.
you are a walking example of not just that promise, but that vision
Yes.
of when you were in, that 10-year-old at school and Richard came in and you saw yourself in front of
Hmm.
hundreds, thousands of people, whether it's on an intimate stage or a global stage.
Yes.
So thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
So thank you. Um, Believe Again, global.
Yes.
Tell us more about the demographic you serve, some of the missions that you're on, the work you're doing, maybe here in Atlanta, or just what that looks like with teaming up with Sterling and some of the things that are going on.
Absolutely. So every year we do a annual Christmas um, concert, and we started it initially. We said, you know what? Let's do something specifically for the Believe Again Global, because it started off as more of something for the community just to come and, we would give away toys, we
Hmm.
would give away clothes, and, provide certain things in that manner.
Right.
But once we form our Believe Again Global nonprofit and we officially was 501c3, thank God.
501.
That's when things really started to shift and we were more
Cooking.
intentional. Yes, we were more intentional about really how can we provide or become a beacon of light in this dark area as it relates to mental health, and how can we bring awareness to it? Because a lot of people don't know, as you're going to bring up some statistics, 64 million adults in the United States alone
Mm-hmm.
suffer from some type of mental health challenge. 64 million. Now, granted, there's over 350 million people that lives in the United States, but 64 million people, that's a lot. So, what are we doing to bring awareness, and what are we doing to help people understand that,
This is real.
this is real and it's okay to get help? It's okay to get therapy. It's okay to get counseling. In the black community, it's taboo. When you talk about, yeah, I'm going to, they like, man, do you not know Caucasians, they get counseling all the time, therapy? That's so, and it's not a white black thing, but I'm just bringing awareness that it's okay to get help when you need help. Even if you're good, I look at it as a car, like a car, right? You can have a brand new car, but guess what? That new car still needs oil
Hmm.
change. That new car still needs gasoline. So that means that there's a process that you have to continue to maintain,
Yes.
right? We need maintenance on us, right? It's the same thing. You can't say, I'm going to take a shower today and it's going to last me for 6 months. No, it's a daily
Yeah,
thing. You get
right.
what I'm saying?
I mean, you could, but you end up like Pigpen off of Charlie Brown. So I mean, to each their own. To each
Yeah.
their own. But
So, I look at it like that, and what we've done really is said, we're going to bring awareness. We use music because music is a natural, um,
it's a healer, man.
it's a healer.
Oh, music is so good.
It draws people. People love music. So we said, all right, if we just focus on Believe Again Global and we don't have the music aspect, we're going to only reach so many people. But if we combine what people love, which is music, and provide a platform for people to understand our mission, Believe Again, and bring awareness to mental health and provide resources. We're not just bringing awareness, we're going to provide resources. That's why every ticket at the Fox, we have proceeds that's going back to the Believe Again so we can be able to provide resources for those who need the help, but they don't have the money for it.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the whole mission or goal, I should say. That's our vision to really continue to bring impact. And eventually, we're going to do stuff throughout the year, not just annually for Christmas, but throughout the year. That's the trajectory we're on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. Man, that's so beautiful. And I love that. Again, when you think back to the recorder, the clarinet, the saxophone, you started with toys, you started with clothes, maybe
Yeah.
meals, other
Yes.
things,
Right.
and now it's, oh, we're tapping in, and we're not just highlighting, but we're going to be impactful and
Exactly.
intentional with what's going on with mental health.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
that's a beautiful thing, man. And I can't wait to hear from Crystal. There's going to be a part two. We're going to get Crystal's wife, his lovely wife,
Yes.
on here because I know she's going to have some things to share and say. But this is the third.
Yes. This will be the third annual, and we're just grateful to God to have a team of people that believes in what it is that we're doing and have the same heartbeat.
Yeah.
Meeting people like Sterling, total blessing. Florentina, she doesn't live here, but she helps out. She lives in Houston, Texas now. People like Vaishal, he lives in India. But Crystal, my wife, phenomenal. So having people in place, Kevin, I mean, just several people who help with the vision to help us get to the next level. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
I strongly believe in a team definitely makes a dream work. Teamwork makes a dream work for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You talk about the vision, right? This is your third gala.
Yes.
Gala. We're gonna have a poll about which pronunciation it is. At just the English language, it'll get you. Um, the vision, right? What does success look like, right, for the gala this year, but also 5 years from now? How are you gonna keep track of how many lives you've touched, or
Yes.
are there other organizations that are also doing the work, or hospitals even like, hey, we want to share our proceeds with you and
Hmm.
have you come in and share the story. What does the vision look like,
Absolutely.
5 years out from now?
So it's funny you mentioned that. So currently, we keep track of every impact that we make from a music side, but we're actually working on the Believe Again to do the same thing that we've done for the music. So, for example, now we've impacted a little over 26 million people to date. Now, how we do this is we have the analytics for all social media platforms, all the analytics for podcasts, like what we're doing. We're going to find out your reach, every TV interview, every radio interview, every event we do, I perform at. We take all those numbers and we're intentional and we find out what those numbers are so we can know what is our impact.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that now for the last 4 years. So we've been intentional for the last 4 years, which is why we're at 26 million. The goal is to positively impact the lives of over 1 billion people.
Let's go.
Yes. Yes. That's the goal.
Hey, and we at the Good Service Podcast, we're here to help you.
Thank you.
Not just get 1 billion. We want 2, 3, 4 billion.
Let's do it.
Right? There's 9 billion in the world. Why not at least get to half of what's going on in the world?
Let's do it.
Right?
Yes.
No, it's statistic wise, right? I'm gonna bring some stuff up that I did research wise within, the Black community and just overall across the United States. But all that to say, right? It's very real. Right,
Yes.
you are a living example, a resilient story and testimony of
Yes.
mental health and what it's like to overcome.
Yes.
Right, and even still, right, there are days that are tough,
Mm.
but you have some things that you've been through that you're going to
Absolutely.
keep going. Right, you have your family, you have this organization. So everyone watching, right, if you have a similar story, please know you can do it. Right,
Yes.
and there are people
Absolutely.
that believe in you. There are resources out there, maybe some that are free in your community that you can tap into. It just takes Google and maybe ChatGPT, which is free.
Yes.
Both are free. So if you don't have the financial means,
Mhm.
there's organizations like Believe Again and others out there. But man, I just can't say thank you enough. And just being the light, bro. The light. I see it. I know it. I feel it. Um, I want to share just some statistics for those who may not be as familiar with what's going on when it comes to suicide within the African American community. In the United States, it is under discussed in public health, actually, the severity of it. There's not a lot of studies, but recently that's changed. And so a lot of these statistics I got from the CDC, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the Journal of American Medical Association, and then Suicide Prevention Resource Center. So just a few. So overall suicide rates have increased since 2020, from 7.4 within 100,000 to 17.6. Within Black Americans, 7.4, and it has increased to 17.6
Wow.
per 100,000. So there's that general increase, unfortunately, that we've seen. This one's from rising rates among Black youth. So Journal of American Medical Association, Black children aged 5 to 12 are twice as likely to commit suicide versus any other race, which is very, very alarming. Um, Again, the increase in suicide for young Black men, 15%, from the ages of 25 to 34, right? So and that's over the last 4 years. Obviously, that's the pandemic.
Yes.
Life was very, very
Yeah.
different and wonky then versus where it's at now, but it just goes to show the increase,
Right.
right? Things like social media are probably playing into that. The lack of faith probably playing into that,
Yes.
for certain. So just some things that as I continue to learn more about, what my family's gone through, my brothers have gone through, someone like yourself, it's like this is everywhere,
Yes.
right? So it doesn't matter. Mental health doesn't matter who you are. You could be LeBron James or you could be the janitor, right? It doesn't matter. So it's very serious, very, very serious. And I just want to contextualize that for our audience today that's listening and watching. So again, it's okay to not be okay. but it's not okay to not say something.
That's good. That's right.
So, um, while we're here, though, Richard, your music is very. It's a big part of this, right? A big part of this puzzle, and um, again, y'all, some of the research I've done and looking at that indie post conversation you had talked about not necessarily being within a genre. You actually created your own genre. Bridge.
Yes.
Bridge. Would you share with people what bridge music is?
Yes. So you've done some research for sure. I love it. I love it. So the bridge was really inspired um, through God because so many times people will ask me, well, what style of music do you play? I've been asked that so many times. And I will always get stuck. I would say, well, I can play jazz, I can play classical, I can play R&B, I can. And then I realized it just became confusing for me and it became confusing for them because it was like, well, what genre do you play? They just want one genre.
Yep.
And I remember I was in the house practicing, and God just spoke to me like this. He said, you're not playing a genre. You don't play a genre. He said, you are a genre.
Ooh, that's good.
He said, and I'm looking, I'm like, I'm practicing, I'm getting these downloads. He said, Richard, he said, you're the bridge.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He said, you're able to connect people from all over to your music. Like, I've played in places where, I mean, Asians, I mean, people from all over the world will come up to me and be like, oh my God, your music touched me. And it wasn't about me playing R&B or playing jazz. They felt connected in the music itself.
Mm-hmm.
So God revealed to me, he said, you're the bridge. So I was like, well, what does bridge mean? And he began to explain how, a physical bridge is a connecting piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think of great music as, you know, a bridge from heaven to earth. Like it literally, when you listen, it's like, oh my God, this is so I don't.
This is
It's doing
heavenly.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's.
doing something
I
for me.
can't. I get it. I love music, man.
Yes.
I'm always listening. It's a problem. It's a good problem to have. Could be
Yes.
my ADHD a little bit because I'm like I need something to calm me down. I don't do medicine or anything, but like music is medicine. Music is healing. Like, oh my,
It
the bridge.
it
You
is.
you
It
are the
is.
bridge, Richard.
So I was like, well, is this an acronym? So he gave me this acronym. He said, Richard, when you play, B is beautiful. R is rich. I is intellectual. D, it is delightful. G is godlike.
Mm.
And then E is excellent. So my tagline is actually excellence in its finest musical form. That's my tagline. So he just gave it to me like that. I was like, all right, guys. So I'm
Can't
the
not run with
bridge.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
bridge.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So maybe one day it'll actually get, some form or fashion we can actually have it under genres because there's over 1,200 different genres of music.
Yeah, no, it's when I read that in the research, I'm like, ooh, I'm like that's fire, right? Like that makes so much sense. But to
Thank
hear
you.
it and how it comes about, right? And that's just I believe how God works. At the
Yes.
Good Service podcast, I kid you not, I prayed about it. I woke up that next morning, boom, logo, everything, just
Wow.
very went, saw there were no podcasts with the name. Just I'm like, this is it. Well, there's one. It's just Good Service.
Okay.
and that's actually two Asian men that talk about food and God's service, right? It's
Wow.
really dope. So people
Okay.
are like, "Hey, I looked you up. This is not you." I'm like, "That is not me. That is them. It's the Good Service
Got it.
podcast,
Okay.
right?" And so that resonates with me. Like when you talk about you're how prayerful you are, and
Yes.
then God is like, "Hey, this is it,"
Yes.
and then you're just obedient and run with it. And
Hmm.
again, the fruit,
Yes.
the living fruit, right? So, um, okay, your music has been described as you play multiple saxophones at once, yet and they're harmonious. It's all just seamless. However, people have described it as though it's better than when people sing the actual songs,
Hmm.
and it's soulful, it's impactful, um, it's heavy in a sense of like it's got you, it's captivating. Like how did you like what techniques like how did you get like how do you get an instrument to sound like that, to sound better than when people actually have a microphone and the tones and the ups and the downs of a whole song, let alone a whole performance. Like, how did you make that happen?
Years of practice, for one. Um, but honestly, I started off listening to a lot of vocalists before I did a lot of instrumentalists. Surprisingly,
Okay.
when I first got started, from different private instructors and teachers, they would always say, listen to this saxophone player, listen to this saxophone player, listen to this pianist. Listen. So they would give me a list of artists to listen to.
Right.
But I found myself very drawn to vocalists because I've always wanted to sing.
I mean, who doesn't?
But I'm not that good in that department, right? And I can be honest, but my mom is actually a vocalist and my sister is a vocalist. So being surrounded by vocalists and then just having a passion for vocalists, the way they sound, Layla Hathaway, Kim Burrell. I mean, I could name Dorinda Clark, Karen Clark. I could name so many different vocalists that I just fell in love with. And I was like, hold up. The saxophone is actually the closest thing to a human voice, instrumental wise. I did the research on it.
I did not do the research on it, so I've been foiled. But the expert is here. The
S-
saxophonist is here, right?
So, with that being said, I was like, well, I need to make it sound like a vocal. So, that was part of it, really finding a way to make my sax sound like a vocals is a lot of practicing and emulating.
Yeah.
So that's how that came about.
Got you.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So good. What? Like, and
Yes.
I got some more questions for you. They're coming up. Don't you worry. Because I've obviously heard your music, right? And I've even heard some of your covers. And so I'm like, all right, my man is cooking. My man is cooking.
Thank you.
Um, and so with that, I want to dive in more. We'll pin that.
Okay.
Because I have two very big questions for you. Before we get to the fun questions, right? Because I have a rapid fire round for us. There are two questions I always like to ask my guests that are pivotal, right? Because you provide not just as a celebrity saxophonist, again, 25 years of experience, all the things, but also as a founder of the Believe Again Foundation. You all are, impacting mental health issue, the suicide, the fight against suicide rates, and the issues there. Um, you're providing two services to the world,
Mm.
right? So thank you for what you do, for our hearts, but also for our minds,
Yes.
in two very very unique ways. Um, where does your heart to serve come from?
It comes from honestly my story. I truly feel that each and every one of us has a story to tell. And the most powerful story to tell is yours because you went through it. And I can tell you, when I hear people say things like, oh my God, you touched me, like your story touched me, I was able to relate. Really bridging that gap of humanity and letting people know that we're human first. We all have something in common. We're human. And allowing that story to really project coming from a truthful place, it's just, that's my heart to serve. It's like it gives me so much joy because I know I'm fulfilling my purpose.
Yeah.
I'm fulfilling what I was born to do. It's nothing like it. Nothing.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It's a knowing your purpose is so strong and powerful. Um, and for you, right, understanding through your testimony and what you've been through, um, that highlighting, right, uprooting. Hey, this is the path you're going to walk, and you're like, absolutely. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Saxophones and cases, and let's do it, right? And
Yes.
so, uh, that's such a beautiful thing, right? And I believe everyone comes across their purpose in different ways.
Right.
I also believe that there's more good than bad, and everyone has the capacity to serve,
Yes.
right? It's just a
Yes.
matter of where is that going to be? What is
Exactly.
that service going to be? Um, you don't need to have all the money in the world. You just need time. You need time and an idea of what it is that drives what makes you feel good when you do help others,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? And some people are like that's selfish. Service is selfish. I would be confused if I did something to help someone because I was able to, whether it's the money,
Hmm.
time I had, or hey, I can just pick up the trash in the neighborhood, or I can go down to the homeless shelter and help pass out meals and clothes.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's supposed to feel good. God wants it to feel good. Right?
Exactly.
This whole thing is about service,
Right.
right? So, I just love that. That's how you were able to find and see, like, hear God through and say,
Hmm.
"This is how I need to use you."
Absolutely.
Right? This is what's going to make your life so great and so fun and fulfilling. So, again, thank you for sharing that. Um, what's your definition of good service?
Good service to me is just coming out of a place that is about others and not about yourself. Not having a motive.
Yeah.
Some people serve people for motives. What can I get from this situation? But when you serve and saying, I don't care what I get from this situation, I just want to do this from my heart because I know that this is going to help others, that's good service.
Yeah.
Not having a motive, good service.
Zero hidden agenda, just because,
Exactly.
and that's enough.
And doing things more so in private and not always in public. If you have to do everything in public, everything, I question that.
Yeah.
But if you're helping people behind the scenes in private, that's good service because you don't need a pat on your back.
That's a fact. Listen, there's gonna be plenty of bars. You're gonna get these social clips. Y'all gonna learn today. He's laying down on the saxophone. He's laying down in the studio right now. Richard, man, immaculate, brother,
Thank you.
immaculate. We're moving into the second part of the show. It's called Mind, Body, and Soul.
Okay.
Right. My intentions with this section was to be just a rapid fire, one
Okay.
answer, or I ask you a question. It's a one word answer. It's a one sentence. Come to find, we talk, we talking. So,
Okay.
just it's a fun way to get to know you a little bit more
Sure.
because I've done my research, but there are some things I kind of want to know some more about you and to share that with our community and audience. So, all right, you brought up Kenny G,
Yes,
and I know you have a couple Kenny G covers.
I do.
What is your favorite Kenny G song?
Songbird.
Songbird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube, and it's great. I listened to it earlier this week. I'm like, I have a feeling it's going to be Songbird, but let me
Yeah.
just ask, because I'm like,
Yeah.
it'd behoove you to not have a cover of your favorite Kenny G song,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You're
So
right.
I was like, if I'm a betting man, which I'm not, my money's here. Okay, so you also play the bass.
Yes.
Who's your favorite bassist, and what's your favorite song that incorporates heavy bass?
Ooh, Joseph, that's tough. My favorite bases. Okay. If I had to just pick one, Victor Wooten, and my favorite song that incorporate the bass. Me playing it or me playing the sax with a bass player?
I didn't know you could do that. Like I'm not. Like yeah, it's enough to play a saxophone. 2, 3. Well, you're saying you can play a sax and a bass. So you
Well,
know
no,
what?
no, no, not at the same time, but
Okay.
just, are you referring to me playing the bass? What song I like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best
What
or
both? What song do you like the best, and what's the one that if you're just chilling at home?
Ooh. Um Never Too Much is one of my favorite songs to play on bass. Yeah. And then
Yeah, that's how you. Yeah,
yeah, if I'm playing a sax and I just have a bass player that's playing and I just love hearing. Ooh, that's tough, Joseph. Let me go with I'm gonna go with Believe Again, my original piece.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ooh,
Yeah.
original pieces. Listen, I've
Yeah.
been listening to Richard Saul Jr. the past 10 days. Y'all need to get help, and you need to come to the gala, which we'll talk about in a minute. But all right, bet. Believe again.
Believe
Believe
Again.
again.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Uh, how do you play 3 saxophones at once? I've only found videos of. I think there's one I found, and then just I'm like, just like how, how? You have 2 hands. You got 3. It's how.
it's it's a lot of moving parts. Um, of course, I have to have the right neck straps and back straps to make it work. But I'm literally dividing my air into 3 different mouthpieces, and I'm using my hands. Like if I have to go to the middle horn, I will just move my hand over, and then I'll go back to this one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of breath control, but I managed to do
Manage is an understatement, brother.
it.
It's impressive. I'm
Thank
like,
you.
just some of the pictures. I'm like, man, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And you're in shape, brother. You got it going on. You know, your dad, so I know you get your parenting muscles, right?
Yes.
Carrying groceries, carrying kids all the years and
Yeah.
whatnot. But I'm like, man, this is impressive.
Thank you.
How do you train like breath work, right? Like, how do
Mhm.
you? Because you're doing shows for sometimes and experiences for
Yeah.
an hour. I
Yeah.
mean, how long's the gala gonna be?
Yeah. We're looking at 2 hours, but
Yeah.
an hour and 30 minutes of performance.
How do
Yeah.
you prepare for that?
Exercising, eating the right foods. I stay away from certain foods, especially leading up to it. So spicy foods is a no-no.
Yeah.
I don't do pork. Um, watch my salt intake, drink a lot of water, and then long tones where I literally will sit in my room. It's a boring exercise, but it's a powerful exercise.
Right.
So I will sit in my room, I'll take a deep breath, and I will blow for 24 counts. I will hold it for 24 seconds, and then I will blow, take a deep breath, blow again, and I go through every note on the sax. So it's very boring, but like I said, it's very
Necessary.
powerful.
Yeah. How
Very
many
powerful.
notes are on a saxophone? No idea.
So honestly, there's over 50 notes. And I'm speaking in terms of altissimo because most people just stop on the F sharp.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you can go higher and then you can get 2 notes below the B flat. So, yeah,
Impressive. Just wow. Yeah, very much. Wow. Have you seen Kenny G?
I have. I have.
What
I
was that
took
experience
a
like?
picture with him. He autographed my album. It was a great experience to see somebody that one of the musicians I looked up to, seeing him perform, um, the sound, his stage presence, the song selections. It was incredible.
Yeah,
My wife and my daughter, I took both of them to see him, and it was a great experience.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. As a man of faith, how do you keep grounded
Hmm.
in your faith with being a mainstream celebrity and
Mm,
saxophonist?
that's good. One of the things that I always make sure I do is pray before a performance. So my wife came up to me. She said, "Oh my God, this lady saw you and the band pray at Catch Kitchen because we're there every Wednesday. We perform." And she was like, my wife said, the lady was so impressed that you all prayed and you didn't care about people looking at you all. So, and we didn't pray to be seen. That's just our normal routine.
Yeah,
So prayer is a big part of that. Um, Having my wife with me at every event is a huge benefit because it deters women who are seeking for other things.
of course.
So I get a if my wife wasn't at every event, it would just be more of just more women flowing through. So
Very real,
yeah.
very honest.
So yeah, having my wife is a big part of my success.
You,
Having her at every event so she deters, because sometimes I don't even know a woman is flirting with me and my wife would pick it up and I'm like, well, I didn't know. I just thought she was being nice. And my wife like, no, I have
yeah.
this I have this intuition. I
Gotta
know.
run some
I'm like,
interference.
because I'm very affable by nature. Like I hug people. I'm a touchy feely person.
Yeah.
Respectful.
No, right, right, right.
Yeah, let me throw that out there. But I'm naturally like a hugger and dapper and
Yeah,
so my wife is like, nah, bro.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Stay behind this line. We handshake. You wave.
yeah.
Look,
So that's a big part as well. And just being focused. Having, when I'm going to perform, I'm going there for a purpose. I'm not going there to for other stuff. So
yeah, beautiful. Is there one performance that you've had where you're like, man, like that was the one? Like I know, again, I've been able to tap in, and they all look amazing, right? I can't wait to be in the crowd selfishly in
yes.
December.
Yes.
But yeah, man, is there one that just always you come back to and you're like, ah, that was it.
You know, there's actually two. There's two. One is when I went on this Showtime at the Apollo.
I was hoping you bring that up.
That was life changing. When I tell you, even though I lost, I won.
Talk about it.
So, of course, they have the amateur night where, I competed against, it was like four other people. Um, it was supposed to be all singers, and then I was the only person playing the sax, but they had this dance group to come in because I think the singer went to the bathroom and it was like, no, it's showtime. We got to. So, this dance group, long story short, they actually won. They got the loudest applause. And people was like, "Oh my God! If the dance group wasn't there, you would have won according to the applause." So I was a little disappointed because I wanted to win.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But check this out, Joseph. We left at showtime at the Apollo. We got on a subway, and this lady was sitting down. She was already on the subway, and it was my mom's friend, and I. We got on the subway. I had my sax, and we were just kind of talking about, what happened and everything. And this lady that was on the subway, she was like, "Oh, you play the sax?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am." She was
Do
like,
I?
she said, "Play me something." And I was like, mm. My mom said, play.
Yep. There's mom again.
Mom
Hey,
again.
there's mom again. Boy, I bought this horn. You
Right,
gonna play this
yeah.
thing?
She was like, play. So I pulled my sax out. I started playing. She was like, oh my God. She said, wait for me. We got off the subway. She said, hold on one moment. She made a phone call and she was like, we're going to Wynton Marsalis' condo. Now, Wynton Marsalis, for those of you who don't know who he is the greatest jazz trumpetist in the world. Like, there's no place he has not been. He's a full millionaire,
Crazy.
the most successful jazz musician in the world. So she says, we're going to his house. I'm like,
Yeah. That's the most memorable for sure.
so she literally takes us to his high condo and we go in and I get an opportunity to not only meet with him, but we jam. He played on his grand piano. I'm in his condo. My mom is like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
Oh, you won,
Even though
son.
I lost on this Showtime at the Apollo, I won.
Big.
Because if I had won that night, I would not have ran into her and had that connection with Wynton Marsalis.
That's so by design.
Yeah.
By design.
Yeah.
My face hurts from just smiling at you, man. Like, whoa, man, we're having a good time. That's a crazy story.
It is very crazy for that to happen. I'm like, Wynton Marsalis out of all, like, I met the greatest.
Yeah, it's like the Michael Jordan of
Exactly. Yes, he's the Michael Jordan. He's the Michael Jackson. Like, yeah, he's that.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's amazing. Okay. Finish the sentence.
Yes.
Oh, no, what are you gonna say?
No, so that was my first one.
Oh, that's right. There's two.
Yeah, the second one was our Believe Again concert. And we had this back in 2019. It was very memorable because that was our first production for Believe Again. It was a Believe Again concert. Amazing. Amazing.
It's when the ball got rolling for real.
Yeah.
And it's been rocking since.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Finish the sentence. The world would be a better place if
Everybody lived on purpose.
How do people live on purpose? If they don't know what their purpose is, like what would you tell our audience in the community?
If you don't know your purpose, number one, I would advise that you have a relationship with God. God is the source. He can let you know basically what your purpose is. For those of you who are seeking for your purpose, I mentioned earlier, a lot of times it's what you truly love or what you hate. But another hint or clue to your purpose is that you're willing to do this with no pay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to do something for no pay and you love it and you just have this passion, chances are that's part of your purpose as well.
There it is. There it is. A few different ways to identify your purpose from Richard Shaw Jr. Man, we could keep going, and there's gonna be a part two. There's gonna be a part two. Unfortunately, we're getting towards the end of the show, right? And this is what I like to call before we go.
Yes.
It's as it sounds. So, Richard, what I want you to do is selfishly, and I mean that with everything in me, plug away. Where can the people find you? Where can they find Believe Again Global? How do they get involved with donations and just your story? Potential coming to the gala December 15th.
Yes.
At Fox Theater here in Atlanta. It's going to be a beautiful time. So I want you to plug away.
Thank you.
So the floor is yours, brother.
So you can find us at richardshawjr.com. That website has all the information for the Fox Theater where you can get your admission fee. Okay. Also, we have a donation link on there as well on the first homepage. You can stay in touch with us through that website as well. Our social media platforms is all Richard Shaw Jr. from YouTube to LinkedIn to Facebook, Instagram. You name it, Richard Shaw Jr. You can type that in your Google search. It'll pop up, Richard Shaw Jr. And if you want more information, you can reach us at 770-731-4656. Once again, 770-731-4656. If you need more information about the Fox Theater, for our Believe Again Global Christmas Gala coming up on December the 15th.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. No, yeah. Y'all heard him. Just Google the man, Richard Saul Jr. It's gonna come up. The Instagrams, the Facebooks, the
Yes.
YouTube. Follow, like, subscribe. His mission, the vision. You're changing the world, and you're gonna touch more than a billion. You're
Thank
gonna
you.
impact
I
more than a
receive it.
billion, and we at the Good Service want to partner with you in that.
Thank you.
So we'll talk more offline on what that'll look like.
Yes.
But it's happening. It's already been in motion thanks to Sterling, the
Absolutely.
illustrious, right? So
Yes.
just an excellent man, and still so grateful for what God has done for us in this moment. Um, Closing remarks. I always like to share if there's something on your heart that you want to share with the world right now. What are those words of encouragement or that message, if anything?
Absolutely. I would just simply say that your obedience today is someone else's promise tomorrow.
That man, yo, we gotta. Yeah, that's a bar. Your obedience today is someone's promise tomorrow. Blessings on blessings,
Yes, sir.
man. Richard Shaw Jr., ladies and gentlemen, thank you all
Yes.
again for being here, for joining us on this awesome episode of the Good Service Podcast.
Yes, sir.
I told y'all you're gonna be seeing us. We in the studio. We're on the YouTube. We're on Instagram. It's the Good Service Podcast on all social medias. That is Instagram. I'm getting the Facebook up. That's the last thing, but LinkedIn is there. The YouTube channel is up and rocking. Um, and of course, we're across all platforms:
Awesome.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it, iHeartRadio. So I'm your host, Joseph Dunham. Thank you all for joining us for the first time. If you have, like, subscribe, share, repost, and refer. We can't touch all corners of the world without you. We're a team of one for now, but we'll grow. And that's how we got here today. So thank you all for the love. We do this because you all allow us to. So with that, that's a wrap.